Hello, YouTube and Smallville fans. Well, I just finished the episode of Season 9 Smallville, the episode Hostage. And basically, before I go into the review, what I want to do is just look into, if you guys might remember, I did an episode review on Smallville episode Persuasion, and I called that the worst Smallville episode of Season 9, the worst written at least. But I'd say, yeah, it's still the worst episode, just because a lot of the writing is such a crucial part of a TV series. But maybe it's not the worst. It's not the worst episode of Smallville ever made, as I had stated in the review. But just before, I'm just saying this. It's got a point to it, just so that the words I'm about to say don't have any confusion. Because this episode, Hostage, I would definitely say that the episode Hostage was the most boring episode of season 9. Just really from a writing perspective. It really was because, I'm not saying that every part of Smallville has to have incredible action to it, but when you look at this season, even the actionless scenes, they have a certain presence to them when it comes to the acting and the dialogue and stuff like that, that it just feels so strong. But here, the dialogue and the script feels very dry. There's really nothing here that if you've looked ahead at some of the episodes coming up, you could have figured out most of this stuff on your own. It's just a real case of like conversation in between some of these characters felt so dry, so dull. The actors did what they could to make it realistic and believable, but you can't really make it. You can't work with crap. That's what I'm saying. It's crappy writing. It's not crap writing. But yeah, basically, this episode revolves around two things, which is the Red Queen and the Book of Ra. And it also involves Martha Kent and Perry White returning to Smallville. Because you may not know this, but Annette Toole, the person who plays Martha Kent, and Michael McKean, the person who plays Perry White, they're actually married in real life, and they were able to sign a contract for this season to return. And basically, their characters are, ironically, yeah, because the writers probably never thought this would happen. They're in a relationship, and basically, what we see is that Martha has come in, she's come back, and Clark is a bit. I find it actually ironic that Sunday's Mother's Day. But yeah, Clark is sort of having. He sees that Martha is having a bit of reminiscent stuff. She's remembering, oh, I remember when I was with Jonathan and I wanted to have a purpose for my life or something like stuff like that. And then Lois is kind of having the same issue. She really says at the beginning that she wants a break from Clark, and Clark doesn't really want that. And then when Perry White comes in, he's actually planning to propose to Martha because he thinks that the relationship has gone that far. Clark thinks that Martha is not going to say yes, and basically, he's found out about the Red Queen and about this thing, the Book of Ra. And while that's happening, Lois sort of tags with Perry and to trying to figure out who the Red Queen is, all this Book of Ra stuff to try and get their jobs back, her and Clark's. And Clark, meanwhile, is still looking for the book and trying to find the Red Queen with Chloe's help. While that's happening, also we find that Chloe is trying to bring Watchtower back online and trying to figure out who the Red Queen is, trying to find the Book of Ra. Basically, like I said, it all revolves around the Red Queen of the Book of Ra. But really, when you go that far, that's about as interesting as it gets, because we could all figure out from the promos that Martha Kent is the Red Queen. Oh my gosh, shocker. Man, could you not have figured that out? Like, seriously. You would have been able to figure that out by the time that okay, maybe after the first mention of the Red Queen, you were guessing. But by the time you got to an episode like Charade, you knew it. You knew it before you even saw the promo for Hostage. Basically, though, like, yeah, it really is. It just spells out everything. But the ending was something that I was wondering how the Book of Ra was going to work. But yeah, I thought that it definitely was something creative. But I'll get to that. Basically, Tess is being tortured inside the Luthor Mansion by Maxwell Lord, trying to figure out where the Book of Ra is. and he's using like mental torture to make it look like she's in the Luthor mansion and Oliver's there with her. But then she breaks free and she goes looking for the Book of Ra, while the Red Queen, or Martha, goes looking to try and find it. She traces Tess back to the Luthor mansion, and while that's happening, Clark is also trying to find the book, and he runs into Vala. Now, here's a part of the episode that really is, what the frig are you thinking, writers? Because, okay, Clark goes to Vala, who is the only Kandorian who appears in this episode, and he asks her about the Book of Ra. And when she sees him, the first words out of her mouth are, "You killed my sister." No, he didn't. He clearly didn't, Vala. So why the frig would you say that? You know, like, there's one thing to say my sister's death is your responsibility or something like that. Like, you're the reason my sister's dead. But you killed my sister. You're seriously taking this way too far. Anyway, so the person who murdered her sister, she decides to confess all the information of the Book of Ra to, and then speeds off, and we never see Vala again for the rest of the episode. And yeah, that's kind of where, like, okay, you hate this guy, and yet, as soon as he asks, does Zod have the Book of Ra, let's spill everything we know to him. Doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, and while Tess goes to find the Book of Ra, we see that Perry and Lois, they try and find the Red Queen. They're able to, you're not going to believe this, they were able to get the Red Queen through a taco stand or a Mexican restaurant or something like that. And then they tried to find her on a rooftop. And there was this scene where Lois is able to save Perry from falling to his death. And we get the line, "Great Caesar's ghost from Perry," which is obviously a comic book reference. And while that's happening, Clark is there watching Lois save Perry's life, and she's kind of saying, "Oh, I miss these days, like when I was helping people," or something like that. And it's sort of a scene like that. Like, yeah, you get it. Lois wants to have a better purpose to her life because she misses that with the blur. But when you're really watching a scene like that, the writing is just, like I said, just so dull. You really could have been able to figure out a better way to bring it out to life. And while that's happening, or after that, rather, Clark is trying to find the Red Queen, and he ends up getting to her limo, where she pulls kryptonite on him. And then we get the Tess-Red Queen confrontation, where it turns out to be Martha Kent! Yeah, even if I hadn't mentioned that earlier in this video, would you have been surprised? Anyway, so she tells Tess to never go to Clark again. She takes the Book of Ra back from her, and then Clark finally confronts Martha, and she says that she was only trying to protect him. And I know this isn't the last part of the episode. This was the last scene of the episode, but there's more to mention. But she pretty much tells Clark that she knows about the Book of Ra, like what it does. And I thought they were only going to reveal this in the season finale, but they don't. Because we get told that the Book of Ra can send the Kandorians to another plane of existence. The catch is, it sends all Kryptonians back to a certain plane of existence. I don't know if that's referring to the Phantom Zone, but you know, when you think about that, that's referring to recent comics. I think it was Superman Last Son, where all the Phantom Zone prisoners got retracted, including Chris Kent, who was General Zod's son, but Clark and Lois had adopted him as their son. Anyway, basically, also at the Daily Planet, Lois and Clark had their jobs back because Perry White was able to get them, put a good word into Franklin Stern. If you've read my blog about the episode, it was Charade, I think, yeah, where I talked about Franklin Stern, who I called a complete idiot because he was the reason that they got fired in the first place, deciding to put them against each other in that stupid contest. Anyway, yeah, so I was really hoping that Perry White would be installed as the new editor, because he was bound to do that. But yeah, I guess not. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That was about all the episode, but yeah, like I mentioned, the big cliffhanger was that Clark may be put to wherever the Kandorians are if he uses the Book of Ra, but it looks like that's how it's going to be working out. So yeah, that is my review of the episode Hostage, and I cannot wait for the season finale because it looks like it's going to be a big one. All right, see you guys. Bye.